A depraved, brutal criminal act by a gang you're about to see. It is horrible, but somehow, is it tolerable? Is this okay? Is this not worthy of national attention? This is a racist attack against a woman these children perceived as white. Kids happen to be black. The woman they thought was white. It's interesting, though. This barely made any news. And listen to how they treat it. They leave out the race of all involved.
New video shows the disturbing attack in downtown Crossing. A 20-year-old woman beaten and kicked by a group of juveniles while she's already down, one of them as young as 12 years old.
Okay, but apparently they were infuriated by her hairstyle, and they thought a woman of her complexion should not have been wearing her hair in that manner. Hardly a word about this, and in televised reports, not one word about the race of those involved. It just happens, and it goes away without any public discussion of any seriousness. Just like last week's subway attack here in New York City. A deranged maniac opened fire and shot 10 people on a New York City subway. It looks like terrorism. And it happened last week. It seems like it happened a year and a half ago. And the man who did it had clearly racial motivations. He was angry at, white people.
You useless white whore, dirty white. You want to look down at me? You.
This is real. This is how some people think. And for a time, the FBI was, professional enough to acknowledge it, that there was a problem, something called BIE, Black Identity Extremism. And they addressed it, they studied it, they thought about ways to counteract it, and they weren't afraid to call it BIE. It was in FBI reports, and it broke it down a little bit further. Let's put that up on the screen, please. It is very likely BIEs proactively target police and openly identify and justify their actions with social political agendas commensurate with their perceived injustices against African Americans. This is, it rings true. I've seen it. We've seen it. People of all races have seen it. But it's no longer acknowledged because some Democrats got offended and the FBI caved.
So nobody's being surveilled or investigated on the black identity extremism.
We don't use that terminology anymore. That was part of the reorganization of all of our domestic terrorism threat categorization. That terminology went away as part of this racially motivated violent extremism category.
Okay, it went away. We're not going to talk about black extremism. No, because it was offensive to some people. Well, it's really offensive, I think, when you get shot, but what are you going to do? So law enforcement isn't focused on it, and the media certainly aren't. What are they focused on? Silly, trivial matters, like a young kid who allegedly shoplifts. And yeah, the cops have to do something about that, right? Now, you may have heard of this case. It happened in upstate New York. The young man was actually not arrested. They took him home to his father. Kid had other previous brush-ups with the law. This made bigger news than that gang that attacked the woman because they didn't like her hair.
A viral video of an 8-year-old boy being taken into custody has sparked an internal review by the Syracuse Police Department. This video was recorded by a passerby. It's disturbing. It shows 3 officers putting the little boy into a police car after they say he stole something from a store. I think it was a bag of chips. The video has been shared more than 1 million times on social media. Some people accuse police of overreacting. Syracuse's mayor says the officers did not handcuff the boy. He says they took him home after his father and did not press any charges. The mayor has asked the Syracuse police to review all of that footage of the incident.
Wow. Well, you know what I found even more shocking? 18 kids beating up on a woman, kicking her because of her race. Yeah, I found that actually more shocking, more newsworthy, and not a lick of coverage. No, back to the 8-year-old, again, who was not arrested. They took him home to his father. It sparked a national conversation.
The mayor of Syracuse says the officer knew the child from prior interactions. Police say they are reviewing the body camera videos from all 3 officers involved in this incident. I think it's triggering when you look at the numbers in terms of how Black and brown children have been criminalized, and you see an 8-year-old and you ask yourself, is there any other way we could have handled this?
Yeah. What is she talking about? This is network television, everybody. CBS News. Gayle King is about to say something. Black and brown children have been criminalized. No evidence, nothing to back that up. What they're trying to do is basically make it almost impossible to accuse someone of color of a crime. Yeah, it's a very twisted, warped agenda. And look at how folks just bend over backwards trying to agree with it.
Well, it seems like such a teachable moment that if you had called the parents to the scene, that there could have been a different interaction.
Yeah.
And maybe they attempted that. I mean, I think they should do a thorough review, and if there's a better way to do it, better way to handle it, that should be the new practice.
But once again, it's the cell phone that sort of shines light on how these things happen or bring about questions about possible policies that might need to change.
It's hard when you hear the anguish of the child who's clearly very shaken up and probably maybe a little traumatized by it. You do have to wonder, is there a better way? Because I think, well, not everybody, but many kids have stolen stuff from stores.
Is anybody going to stick up for the cops? Huh? Maybe one of them could leave the studio, drive up to Syracuse, and see if they can find a better way with a kid who apparently has stolen stuff before, and they just brought him to his father, okay? So they'll talk this into the ground, but the subway shooting from last week is ancient history. Now, why is it ancient history? Well, nobody died, right? Maybe it is time to move on. Well, let's talk about January 6th for a moment. I keep hearing this is the worst thing that ever happened since what, the War of 1812? One person did die, one of the protesters, Ashley Babbitt, of course. They never talk about her, do they? Something is very warped and weird in our culture right now. They're trying to demonize people based on race and give all kinds of latitude, again, based on race. Depends what race, however. Okay, moving on to Piers Morgan. You hear about that little stunt he pulled? Maybe. All right. Now, Piers did an interview with the president, and the promo for it was totally over the top. Made it seem like these guys essentially had a fight, almost physical. Take a look.
Okay, Piers, I'm ready.
A former president in denial.
I'll be completely straight with you to your face.
I think I'm a very honest man. Much more honest than you, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
It was a free and fair election. You lost. With
Excuse me.
Okay, but with respect, you haven't produced the hard evidence.
Excuse me.
The most explosive interview of the year.
I don't think you're real.
I realize I'm not like...
Very dishonest. Let's finish up the interview.
Morgan versus
Turn
Trump.
the camera off. Very dishonest.
Only on Talk TV.
Wow! They're going to wrestle? What's going to happen? This is amazing. That promo could be a great big phony. Hey, one thing, though. Did you notice how they filmed President Trump? I mean, super, super tight. They always do it. I think they're trying to catch him in the most unflattering light possible, although he looks fine. Look at Piers. You see? They're much kinder to the interviewer. 60 Minutes does that. I never liked it. Anyway, it looks like that promotion job was a fake job. They were running a tape recorder in the room, and here's how it really wrapped up. President Trump didn't storm out. Listen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for a great interview.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
That was a great interview.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Turn the camera off. You want to turn the camera off before you start small talk or whatever like that. It was totally fine. So let's talk a little bit about Piers. Piers is a showman. Piers is out for Piers. And Piers is high maintenance. You remember when he walked off the set on his old show over there in London?
And I understand that you don't like Meghan Markle. You've made it so clear a number of times on this program. a number of times, and I understand that you've got a personal relationship with Meghan Markle, or had one, and she cut you off. She's entitled to cut you off if she wants to. Has she said anything about you since she cut you off? I don't think she has, but yet you continue to trash her.
OK, I'm done with this.
No.
Sorry, no. Sorry.
So, do you know what? That's pathetic.
You can trash me, maybe not my
No.
See you later.
I'm being...
Sorry, can't do this.
This is absolutely diabolical behaviour.
Wasn't quite diabolical. It was bad behaved diabolical. Give me a break. But he did just walk off the set because he was, I guess, losing an argument. And here he is losing an argument about, what, 10, 12 years ago with much younger, but still brilliant, Ben Shapiro. Take a look. This is on CNN, right when Piers took over for Larry King.
What you tend to do is you tend to demonize people who differ from you politically by standing on the graves of the children of Sandy Hook, saying they don't seem to care enough about the dead kids. If they cared more about the dead kids, they would agree with you on policy. I think we can have a rational political conversation about balancing rights and risks and rewards of all of these different policies, but I don't think that what we need to do is demonize people on the other side as being unfeeling about what happened in Sandy Hook.
How dare you accuse me of standing on the graves of the children that died there? How dare you?
I've seen you do it repeatedly, Piers.
Like I say, how dare you?
How dare you? Well, I mean, you get emotional when you're losing the argument on the merits. That's Piers. Now, there is a chance that Piers is somewhat innocent here. We'll get to that in a second. President Trump put out a blistering statement. It's a classic. Piers Morgan, like the rest of the fake news media, attempted to unlawfully and deceptively edit his long and tedious interview with me. Let's see. He wanted to make it look like I walked out on the interview when my time limit of 20 minutes went over by an hour. What's next? The good news is that the interview was taped by us as a means of keeping him honest. It just shows what I have to deal with in the fake news media. He went out of his way to deceptively edit an interview and got caught. I think this is my favorite. Unlike others, I don't believe Piers is a complete slimeball, but he lost a lot of credibility. Piers is off to a bad start, but thanks to me, he may get a final burst of big ratings before it all comes crashing down. So it is possible that Piers is not a total slimeball, because I noticed this promotional spot, it wasn't his voice. So maybe somebody in the promotions department, the marketing department, got carried away. Maybe it's not Piers's fault, but it is Piers's responsibility, okay? And how about that cheap trick of taking the president's face and filming it so close like that? You know what? He still looked fine, and only he could take this. Only he could take it. And that's pretty amazing for all of us. I really do think he is fighting for us.